Okay, so this will be a feedback slash critique for what is even your name on here? Oh, Kunimitsu Hater Number One. That is a very good name. Fuck that character. Unfortunately, that is I think you're what DragoN. I'll just call you Drago. I don't know. Let's do the usual out of the way, right? You might know me as Shazam on the Discords, or in Armor King Discord, I go by Captain Schmuck, which is a long. It's not long. It's just an old joke. I am not someone. I am not a professional at Tekken, right? I am someone who simply enjoys the game a lot, plays the game a lot, tries to watch the game, play the game, learn the game, etc., etc., etc. Right? I don't even play AK that much anymore. I just play Paul because life, right? However, I've played and watched enough Tekken to a degree where I think I can give reasonable opinions on it, right? And so what I hope to provide here is not necessarily, you know, hey, here are the secret steps to success for Tekken, right? The real secret is just keep playing more. But it's more so, hey, based on my experiences playing this game, based on my experiences watching Tekken, all this other shit, watching AK, playing AK, fighting AK, right? Here is what I think you can be improving on, right? It is by no means gospel. It is by no means any sort of, 100% tried and true method to immediate success. It's just kind of like, try and focus and work on these areas, and you should see some improvement, right? Or just in the long term, if you focus on these aspects of the game, they will provide more benefits to you, right, than whatever you're currently doing. Sakes talked about it already, but I think a lot of it, at least in this Negan matchup, we'll look at the Paul in a second, is just your punishment is just not there, right? Like, you talk a lot about blocking for 7 seconds, and it's just like not fun, and it's just my read of that, and then watching your gameplay, is that you just don't know what's punishable and what's not, and that's understandable, right? Because there's 50 characters in this game, each of those characters with 100 moves. That's like, what, 5,000 moves? 10,000 moves if you count King, right? So it's understandable not to have perfect punishment. I'm not saying that you need to have perfect punishment, but what I'm saying is, if you are straight up just blocking for 7 straight seconds in a game, and your opponent is just pressing every button in existence, you need to be asking yourself, not why is the game like this, but what are you doing wrong? Just straight up. It's as simple as that. The game, there is never any sort of uninterruptible 7 pure seconds of offense from the opponent, right? Even the best characters in this game have gaps in their offense, whether it's by design from the characters' pressure just stopping at certain points, or just by the player's habits, right? Like, yes, there's a character on the screen, but there's a human behind that controller, right? There's a human pressing those buttons, and humans are prone to error, right? They are not computers. So you have to get out of that mindset of like, oh, I have to block, I just can't do anything. Like, you talk a lot about, oh, I get to play pure unfiltered Tekken, where I take my turn and the opponent takes their turn. That's not what Tekken is. Tekken is literally just whatever happens on the screen, right? You have this weird notion, this idea of like, this is what Tekken should be. Okay, that's nice, but that doesn't mean that the opponent, right, that the other player across from you will have that same idea or notion. You can look at the highest level, and you can look at the immaculate spacing, the immaculate poking, the timing, the movement, the clean ass Tekken, and then you can look at someone like Boa Love B, who says, fuck all of that, I'm going to force you to play a 50-50, and you have to be good enough to deal with that, which is a completely viable strategy, right? You have to let go of these preconceived notions you have and focus on what is happening on the screen, what is my opponent doing, and what can I do to stop it, right? Anyway, long ass preamble over. Let's just watch some Tekken. So already, like right here, I think you had the right idea, right? Backdash a little bit, and then you go for the whiff punish. Unfortunately, I think your timing was a little bit off. And more importantly is that you back off too much, which we'll see as a running theme in the Paul match especially. But you have to understand that, like, at the level you're at, right, the biggest thing that's going to be really helping you is just punishment, right? There's layers to Tekken, just like there are layers to any fighting game. Beginner level Tekken, right, or just early level Tekken is completely different than intermediate Tekken, which is completely different than high level Tekken, which is completely different than professional Tekken, which is and not even, that's not even going into the depths between online versus offline, right? You have to play to what's in front of you. You can't be like, oh, I subscribe to this idealized version of Tekken. That means the other player will. It's like, no. You have to play with what's in front of you, with what's presented in front of you. But let's go off about that. Six already talked about it, but the power crush is incredibly punishable, right? Whenever you watch your gameplay, right, watch it through the punishment trainer. That'll at least give you some tips, right? Otherwise, you just have to, trial and error, right? Figure out what you can get away with either mid-match, or if you rewatch your replay, just try to find the moves, right? The tools are all available to you, right? Yes, Tekken does a shit job of teaching you the game, which really sucks. However, all the tools are available at your disposal, right? If you see a move in front of you, if you see a move on the screen, you can look up what that move is, right? Either by looking up a punishment guide, either by asking somebody, hey, what is this Lily player? What is this Negan player? What is this Paul player? What are these moves, right? Or just looking at what's happening on the screen and then just straight up, looking up a move list from the player or for the character, and then seeing what moves they do, and then figuring out, okay, this is that input. Is it punishable? Is it not? Etc. Right? Yes, it's a shitload of homework. It's annoying, but that's just how it be with fighting games, right? You just have to start working somewhere. I don't know if this is early on footage. Oh no, I think it was Bandit that was talking about it. If you can punish with a jab string, right? So you punish with 1-2 here. If you have an opportunity for a jab punish, just do 2-1. You double check with the other AK people, right? But I don't think there's a situation where if you have 1-2 and 2-1 available to you, I don't know any situation where you would not just choose 2-1, right? Oh, let me just double check. Okay, so you have 1-2 and 2-1, where 2-1 does more damage, offers better frame advantage. Is it better on whiff? Similar on whiff, and it goes high mid as opposed to high high, right? So you have to really ask yourself, like, in a punish situation, right, between these two moves, why would you ever do 1-2, right? On approach, on keep out, yes, 1-2 I can understand, right? But when you're looking at a punish situation, when the opponent's right in front of you, 2-1 all the way, all right? So I what's happening here, right? Like, are you pressing a button? Are you trying to move and just failing? Like, I'm not sure, because this happens often where it feels like you're backing up and you should be safe, but then the opponent is hitting you out of something, right? In the situations where you should not be pressing buttons, or you're getting hit by something, you're like, what the fuck did that hit me? You have to analyze your own inputs, right? What exactly are you doing here that's getting you hit? Are you trying to move? Are you trying to press something when you shouldn't, right? You have to commit a bit more to the blocking, right? And you have to get a better understanding of when to challenge your opponent. We'll talk about how you deal with lows in a second, but right. So like right here, let's look at this situation. You just did down 4. Congratulations, your opponent is now in rage, which kind of sucks, but it's whatever. You just did down 4. Your opponent pauses slightly, they hold back before they press more buttons. But instead of, moving around, right, you just continue to hold back, right? You also miss a whiff punish, which is whatever, right? Tekken is a 3D game, right? Why would you want to stay with your back against the wall against your opponent, against Negan, against any character, right? When you're faced with these opportunities of you just disrupted your opponent, you didn't get frame advantage, but you disrupted them, right? You maybe got some momentary room to breathe. At -2 from this far away, what is the Negan gonna do that's gonna hit you, right? You want to start sidestepping. You want to start sidestepping into the foreground or into the background. So sidestep right in this situation and get yourself away from the wall, right? You always have to keep in mind the positioning of where you are in the game, right? If your back is to the wall and your opponent's back isn't, who's at advantage, right? What character is scary when their back is to the wall and the opponent has the entire screen to play with? Anyway, I don't want to harp on the point too much, but just remember, this is a 3D game. Remember that positioning is very important, and also when to adjust your positioning. Okay, so I like what's going on here. So all this dash blocking, right? I like this. This is good. This is a good fundamental. But so maybe this is like a bit of unfamiliar with Negan's range, so I'm not going to harp on it too much, right? But remember, it's kind of like he just threw a move out at you. You missed the whiff punish, which is understandable, right? It was a pretty fast whiff. And now he's way closer to you than before, right? And what should be going through your head, right? Should you immediately press and challenge the opponent when he just whiffed something, but you were not there in time for the whiff punish? B, not press anything because you know the opponent likes to press buttons. You know these people just love to press buttons and will just press whatever they want in front of you, right? Right? Which of those two options sounds more reasonable given what we've seen so far throughout the match, given what we've seen from the players you're fighting? Right? You have to understand that you're fighting players that will just keep pressing buttons. And it's not on them to stop. It's on you to make them stop, right? So when you're this close out, without even you'd have to also understand what's punishable against Negan. But without even going into it, it's just kind of like, why would you continue to challenge when you know, like, you could either make a gamble and try to press a button and challenge the Negan, or you can just block and the Negan will do something punishable, right? So that's the thing. It's kind of like, you don't always have to approach. The dash blocking was already good. In my opinion, right, the best way to approach in Tekken, at least at the start, until you have a better understanding of what your opponent is you go for the least amount of commitment possible, right? You still want to advance your game, right, but you don't want to use moves. If you press buttons, that's a lot of commitment, right? Your opponent can whiff punish you, they can block punish you, they can do whatever, right? But if you just dash block in front of them, yes, your reward doesn't seem like much at first, right? It's not a move. They're not going to get hit by anything. Why would I dash block? But you have to understand, it's like, okay, but how are they going to punish you for dash blocking, right? How are they going to punish you for tapping forward, and then immediately holding back, right? Because it's a lot more difficult to punish a fucked up dash than it is to punish a fucked up move, right? Dash blocking is a very, very powerful tool, but also just holding back at the right opportunity and knowing when to punish your opponent is just as valuable, if not more. Good block. Unfortunate that you missed the punish. So again, you're just backing up into the wall, and then you immediately start wave dashing forward. What did you think was going to happen, right? Was he immediately going to start backing up as well? I like that you start incorporating movement in the later rounds. Maybe it's because you switch to the player side you have practice in. But if you're comfortable on one side, make sure both sides are comfortable, right? But also, it's kind of like, again, 3D game. Get your ass away from the wall. And, then this happens. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Unfortunate. Combo. Did you kill him? No, unfortunate. Combo awareness and sort of, hey, how to adjust stuff on the fly will just come with practice and experience. You just kind of have to either try and recreate those situations and practice them, or as you play AK, you'll get a better understanding. Alright. What? I don't know. That's hard. Oh, Jesus. So there's a lot to unpack here, but I think a lot of what I'm going to talk about anyway is also going to be covered in the Paul match, so I think I'm just going to stop it here. There's not that much left anyway, and let's watch the Paul match. Where are you at? Nice. Good whiff punish. I don't know what changed between the Negan match and the Paul match, but the whiff punishment was good. Okay, let's talk about commitment, right? It's like, okay, what exactly are you trying to achieve by pressing that entire string here, right? Are you just too used to people who just try to challenge you all and then eat the string? I think you just have a bad habit here. Unless it's a wall combo, don't finish this string. Don't do this string in neutral, right? Just don't. You can use down 2 in neutral, sure, right? But unless you know for a fact that the opponent's going to mash and then they're going to eat it, there are so many things you can be doing to apply wall pressure against Paul here. And there's like 20 different moves you can do before we get to, let me do the entire down 2 string, right? Down 2 by itself, pretty solid. The string outside of a wall combo is just very questionable, right? Is it an option? Yes. Is it an option you want to use? No. You have so many better options to go through before getting to that. You have to really ask yourself, why are you doing this? Is it because you know for a fact that the opponent will challenge you, right? And actually eat the string? Or are you just doing it because that's just your muscle memory? That's just your habit. If that is just your habit, it won't necessarily get you killed. It's not like the string is death on block, except for like if you only do the second part of the string, the down 2-4 in some matchups. But you're constantly going to be sacrificing your pressure and wasting your advantage when you don't need to. Are you going to die for this? No. Will you start losing momentum and then could the match slip away from your control? Yes, and that is the issue. But let's keep going. Look, I'm not going to talk too much about Paul, right? Anything matchup knowledge related that you can, sort of just look up yourself, right? But He has a lot of strings that end in highs. Sometimes they're high, sometimes they're mid-high. None of them jail, right? They're very popular. None of them jail. The popular ones, at least. Right? You need to duck this at any point that the Paul finishes the string, because he should die for trying to finish that string outside of a punish situation, right? He has multiple gimmick strings that if you don't punish, if you don't make him regret pressing those buttons, you will just suffer in this matchup, especially against early level Pauls that just press those strings because they never get challenged by them. And that's the matchup, right? There's going to be a lot of gimmicks for every character, and you're going to go on a journey of figuring out what gimmicks there are and trying to, demolish them one by one. How you choose to do it, where you choose to start, that's on you. You got to figure that out yourself. But at least for Paul, the back 1-2 string, the string he does here, back 1-2, you got to duck the second part of that. Oh man, I wonder if that's how I used to play. So unironically, I actually like this sequence a lot, right? You go for a whiff punish. It was kind of fucked up on the timing, but whatever, it worked out. And then here you actually stop at the forward 2, right? So you have the good idea of stopping the string and not always relying on it, which is solid, right? Which I think is like pretty useful. And then you can buffer in a grab, and then that'll really mess with the opponent's head. But you have to also just kind of like really rethink how you're doing your approach, right? Dash blocking, which you showed a little bit in the Negan match, using jabs, using forward neutral 2 as kind of like a power load / approach tool, right? Using wave dash. You have a lot of options to close the gap between you and your opponent, and using forward 2-1 should be like the last thing, right? Outside of whiff punishment, that move should not be used, right? The string. Forward 2 by itself, you can maybe make gimmicky approaches here and there, but again, you're also really putting yourself in an unfavorable situation when you have so many tools that can achieve similar results at much less risk. Granted, -11 isn't that crazy, but the important thing is they leave you in better situations, which is the whole goal, right? Trying to make the least amount of commitment for the most amount of reward, right? There are a lot less committal options that AK has that can achieve what you're trying to do, which is close the gap on the opponent without leaving yourself in such an awkward position. God, I wonder if... Oh my God, I should have saved my old replays. Oh boy, that one. Oh no. Nice. Excellent whiff punish. Hot damn. Unfortunate. Oh, that connection looked really rough. .999 times out of 10, you can punish Death Fist with forward 2-1, right? Practice your punishes and start learning them. I'm not going to talk about them that much ever again, really, because there's no point, right? This is all research you can do by yourself. But for Death Fist and Demo Man, if you block them and you're left standing and they have a huge amount of pushback, whenever you think, oh, I don't know if forward 2-1's going to reach, shoulder will reach, right? AK shoulder, probably the best range in the game for shoulders, right? That will reach, right? Ooh. That's always a scary part. Holy shit. What is this Paul doing? Don't use back 2-1-2. Please no. Oh nice. You grabbed him out of that. They're a brave soul. Nice. Got him to use rage. Oh fuck. Oh my god. I'll let this round play out, but yeah. Oh shit! That was hype. Nice. Oh fuck. Oh, you're gonna die. No. Oh my god. Woo! There's a lot to unpack. Okay, so man, oh man. All right, let's just do the usual neutral, punishment / matchup knowledge, combo / Oki, personal opinion stuff. Neutral. Your neutral approach is basically non-existent. I'm play very similar to you, where I just kind of hold back and I don't really do anything the entire time. But you have to understand the difference between playing defensive and playing passive, right? Yes, defensive players are passive, right? But not every passive player is defensive, right? There's such a thing as like having good defense, being a solid wall, and then just kind of letting your opponent run all over you. You and I are in a similar camp where we just kind of let our opponents kind of approach us and run all over us because we're just very afraid, right? That's where the matchup knowledge comes in, knowing what their tools are. You have to know your enemy in order to fight your enemy, right? You don't have any Paul matchup knowledge, and it's just really about learning the basics of the character. Learning at least the common gimmicks and strings, and then knowing, like, he just whiffed this button, time to kill him, right? And just putting in, doing that effort. Another aspect of your neutral is just kind of like you how do I say this? Your approach is very inconsistent, right? Sometimes you do good approach. You have good approach fundamentals in the aspects of dash blocking, like in the Negan match, and then you kind of just drop it and then spaghetti all over the place, like in this Paul match, right? Where you try to approach with moves, you constantly press buttons at times you shouldn't, right? And it's like, well, how am I supposed to know I'm not supposed to press buttons there? It's looking at your replays, seeing when did you press a button and what got you hit, and then remembering for future reference to be like, don't press a button at that point in the future, right? Pretty simple as that. There's a lot more aspects of neutral, but I think really a lot of it is just going to be more about try to work on your punishment and matchup knowledge, right? Try to start incorporating like, hey, what exactly is punishable, right? And what can I do there, right? And what exactly, when can I punish my opponent, and also when is my opponent going to attack? I feel like you have a good habit built up of, all right, let me just hang back a little bit, and then you seem to forget that in the heat of the moment, and you're like, oh shit, my opponent's pressing a button. I'm like, dog, have you watched the last 2 minutes of your own gameplay? Have you paid attention to the last like 2 rounds or 3 rounds against this dude? They're always going to be pressing buttons, right? And all you have to do is maintain a safe distance, because forward 2-1 can hit from across the screen, and then let them whiff buttons in your face. Let them whiff all their buttons, and then you get to go forward 2-1 and then whiff punish them, right? Like you did a little bit of it in the early matches, and you feel you kind of have the foundation built there slightly, but you need to keep building on top of that. Other aspects of neutral, which I'll talk about a little bit more in personal opinion stuff. Dark upper is not an approach tool. I don't know why you keep trying to do dark upper outside of punishment situations, right? But you have other tools that can apply pressure and are pokes, like actual pokes. Your poke usage is just completely all over the place, and I don't understand it, right? Like occasionally you'll do down 4, and then the rest of it you're just doing just just kind of whatever. Like, you'll do your counter hit strings, or you'll do back 2-1-2 or some shit, and it's like, why? Why? You have so many other ways to control the flow of the game, and you're not using any of them, right? You know, watch Jamie and all his clips, right? Watch Howie if he has clips. Watch JDCR play Armor King, and look at how they control the neutral with a lot of just small core select tools, right? Using jabs, using down forward 1, using down 4, using wave dashing occasionally, using throws. All of these options available to you before you start relying on dark upper as an approach tool. There's a lot. Anyway, punishment / matchup knowledge, talked a lot about it enough. Look up punishment videos, look up what you need to do, and just start chipping away at it, right? And it's easy to go, oh my god, there's 50 characters in this game, how am I ever supposed to learn any of it? It's like, you just start doing it, right? You find a character that you don't like, or you find a character you see a lot of. For example, Paul is a very popular character, right? And you just gotta learn how to deal with him, right? Well, step by step, you just look up a punishment video, look up what the fuck's going on there, and start recognizing, oh, the Paul is doing this, that means I should do this, right? And you kind of just keep chipping away at it. Punishment game talks a little bit about it, but like, you have the foundation kind of built there, but it's very shaky, right? It's like you built it on sand or something. You go for defensive, but your whiff punishment needs work, right? That's, again, just trial and error. Just keep experimenting, see what works, and just be sharper on whiff punishing. Another way to make your whiff punishment better is just understanding what tools your opponent's using, right? When can you duck a string? That'll lead to a whiff punish. When can you sidestep something? When can you backdash something, right? A lot of layers to it, but the first layer is just kind of like, don't approach when you know your opponent is just going to press buttons in front of you. Combo / Oki. I think your combos are solid. Like, you have pretty solid combos. Don't need to do anything fancy. Your combo awareness could use a little bit of work, right? You kind of need to understand how to capitalize on awkward situations where, oh, I just got a weird combo situation. How can I capitalize on it? And that's really just a lot of trial and error, playing, practicing in training mode to see what you can do. Oki, not even going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I think Oki is like the least thing. It's like the last thing you need to be working on right now. If you have more gameplay in the future after some improvement or after some time, maybe I'll talk about Oki there, but it's whatever. Personal opinion stuff, options that I think are neat, but your mileage may vary. Forward 4 neutral 2 is one of the best lows in the game, straight up, right? Abuse it and abuse it. You have to learn how to start using jabs as a disruption tool. You use 1-2 every now and again, but just using a simple 1 jab can lead to a lot of wonders, right? And then using 2-1 for the punishment. I could just start listing moves, really, but I think the biggest things for you right now are just kind of start learning punishment and start learning. And you don't even have to know like frame data that much, right? You just kind of have to get a feel for it of, I backdash, my opponent whiffs something, and now I can punish them, right? And really start experimenting with that style of play and start practicing. Because that's the biggest thing, is just kind of like, your punishment really needs work. And I think a little bit of patience and punishment knowledge will go a long way towards helping you improve. Or really just helping you secure W's. I rambled on for a lot, right? I just kind of was all over the place. If you have questions, if you'd like more specific breakdowns about what exactly to do here, where, wherever, right? Feel free to ask questions in the Discord, right? But, focus on your punishment, focus on poking afterwards, and just kind of try to develop the knowledge, right? And keep in mind that, like, even though you might be focusing on developing a fundamental core set, that doesn't mean your opponent is, right? And you just have to accept that. Don't get caught up in the whole, like, oh, my opponent's not playing Tekken the way it should be. Nobody fucking cares, right? This game does not come with a contract agreement to play Tekken by whatever specific rule set you have in mind. Nobody cares. You have to understand that, like, your opponent's gonna do dumb shit, and you're gonna punish them, and they're either gonna A, stop doing the dumb shit, and then maybe you can play a little bit of Tekken, or B, they're not gonna stop doing the dumb shit, and you're just gonna kill them and move on, right? That's as simple as that. Yes, it can be frustrating to like not play what you perceive to be the real game, but it's whatever. It doesn't matter, right? If it frustrates you that much, focus on beating your opponent that's in front of you. Once you beat them, dip, right? There's no obligation for you to keep playing them. But if they're just steamrolling you with moves and offense, and you're not doing enough to discourage their offense or punish them accordingly, that's on you. Anyway, if you have any questions, let us know. Just ask away in the Discord. Alright. Anyway, stay safe. Have a good one.